Welcome and thank you for your interest in G2G Investments. This is the introduction video for a three-part series in how to invest in Pokemon. We're going to name this introduction video the Genesis, and if you're familiar with the Neo Genesis set, you'll understand that these videos are based loosely off of the set. So you have this introduction video called the Genesis, where we're marking the beginning of something special that we'll create together in 2019. And in this video, we're going to discuss the bigger picture of the entire series. We're going to cover all the topics that we're going to be discussing in brief. And then as the series rolls out, we'll be unpacking those topics one by one, building off of each pillar until we get to, go through discovery, revelation, and then finally destiny. And so to give you an idea, when we begin the discovery video, it's going to be the beginning of the pillars that I have planned for you guys in understanding my approach to investing and my ideas regarding investing in Pokemon. So, truly, in order to go deeper into my approach and strategy for 2019, we have to lay a very broad foundation of understanding about my specific ideas of investing. And so in the discovery video, we're going to talk about understanding your investments. We're going to talk about timing your investments, categorizing your investments, and protecting your investments. And the main theme of that video is going to be to really iron out everything that you need to do before you begin investing in Pokemon. As we move on to the revelation video, we're going to go deeper into the strategy. We're going to talk about researching your investments. We're going to discuss focusing your investments, and we're also going to be talking about building your position of your investments and growing your investments. And then once we get through that revelation video, you should have a very, very nice picture of how all of this works. And we'll move on to the destiny video, which will talk about specifically how we bring all this together and my approach and what I've actually done, even at the making of this video, the release of this video, positions that I've already taken and moves that I've already made, giving this entire concept of these ideas of investing life, because you'll be able to follow along with what I'm doing and then be able to just kind of be caught up on things so that we can move forward into what's in the future. So if you've been following along up until this point, I've touched on my story, how I got back into the hobby in 2018, my background. But to really understand where I'm going with all of this, you're going to have to know the why. Like, why is it important to invest in Pokemon? What is it about investing that I believe is so different than, say, what we've all come accustomed to, which is just collecting with our collections. So if I'm really going to lay that foundation for you guys, I'm going to have to unprogram your minds, or empty your cups, as I would like to say, in order to fill you back up with what's coming in the future. So let's talk loosely about the market today and what I believe is coming. So I consider myself to be an example of someone who left the hobby, who collected for a long time, and had been out of the market for over a decade. And we've talked about my story in the prior videos. But yet I find myself here. I'm in the market, and I have an economic identity, one that I didn't have before. I have the ability to bring my skill set along with my resources and my income into something like Pokemon. And I could put my money in other places, but I have chose to put money into Pokemon investing, and I think it's important to understand why. I am completely convinced that there are going to be many more people like me coming into the market in 2019. I've already confirmed a lot of people that came in waves in 2018 for the same reasons I did through Pokemon Let's Go. Before that, you had the boom of the Pokemon Go series that brought a lot of people into the market. And I'm not too familiar with everything that happened before Pokemon Go, but I can imagine there were a lot of people that stayed in the hobby or got in the hobby in those early 2000s, and they're the ones that saw this whole market take form, where all of their genuine interest turned into monetary value. And I think with the gold stars and the shinings and the development of social media and all that stuff that went on to make Pokemon develop into a market, I think people lose sight of the future of Pokemon. They don't really think that it can grow more. I mean, we're in a market now where we're talking about how much the market is optimized and how prices are settling in, and all of that is true. But I think being in the moment and being in 2019 and just kind of looking around, people are missing the fact that there could be another boom in the market. So I want to kind of build a position and a case for that. If you pay attention to what Nintendo is doing with Pokemon, they are on a very calculated path, a very strategic path, where they've introduced Pokemon Go, the mobile platform, and in my opinion, they are appealing to the casual player. They're also appealing to kids, and they're also appealing to the parents of those kids who may have been in the market before, or who may get into the market as a result of their kids being interested as a casual gamer, like as a kid. And with the Nintendo Direct that just came out and the release of, or the announcement, things that we've already known. We've known that the next generation of Pokemon was coming out, but with the official announcement of the next generation of Pokemon's Sword and Shield, you should be able to tell that their aim has been to convert some of the Pokemon Let's Go community, I guess, to convert them into like the actual hardcore players. And I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but just imagine all of the people that came in for Pokemon Go, new and old, all of the people who came into Pokemon Let's Go, new and old, and then imagine them converting into the next generation. And whether they do or not, I guess the only point I want to make is that Nintendo is bringing people back. So in so many words, in so many ways, they are continuing to build the Pokemon franchise, and people like me are coming in droves, and they're gonna be bringing their resources into the market. So I believe that because I'm an example of it. Someone like me to get into the market again, to be completely overtaken by it. There's a lot of examples of that in currently, and I believe we're going to be seeing a lot more of it. So why should we be investing in Pokemon? Right now, Pokemon in the collectible side of things is it's very one-sided. Everybody that participates, they are collectors, and as much as you want to consider your collection to be an investment in Pokemon, it is not investing in the analytical sense that investing can be done like it is in other markets, including sports or other card markets, or in any other type of investments like real estate or the stock market, for example. And so what I mean by that is we spend a lot of our time just collecting sets, collecting WotC, just getting everything, gotta catch them all, or a combination of a lot of things. But we're just making mostly emotional purchases and just kind of filling out our collection, putting money into the market. And so we're gonna have to draw some hard lines in the sand and have some hard conversations going forward about what is investing. So I'm going to roll out a handful of ideas that I consider not to be investing. So for example, collecting is not investing in the context of what we're trying to build here at G2G Investments. If you're collecting as I am as well. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. And yes, you are making an investment into Pokemon. Every purchase that you make puts money into the market, puts money into these cards, and over time, these cards are going to be worth more than when you purchase them, and that's the belief. And what's really appealing about that, and why, another reason why I am currently pretty excited about this market. Number one, it's a new market, so we're at the bottom. I know prices are up on the WotC and the first edition base, but what you guys may not have considered is that the economic identity of the people that are bringing money into this hobby, these are people from my generation and before, the ones that were around in 1999 when Pokemon was released. But there are people, there are countless generation, or every other generation is under that, and they have not all made an economic identity of themselves in mass, and they will. It doesn't mean that they'll do it this year, per se. And there might have to be some time, but you're gonna basically see, if you're here long enough, the people that grew up not having WotC, grew up in the fire red leaf green, or the ruby sapphire, and sun and moon XY, whatever you want to call it. They're growing up with those memories where WotC was out of reach, or they just maybe they weren't as interested in it as they might be now, and they will grow to collect cards from their past that they remember, maybe things that were a little bit out of reach for them. So we can't really predict the market. All I can say is that the market has just begun, and this market is a lot easier to understand and navigate than, say, the stock market. So there is a lot of money in the stock market, a lot of strategy, algorithms, artificial intelligence, a lot of machine learning, and just so much that in the stock market, and it's not predictable. It is completely, and if you want to get on the other side of things, you can even say the stock market is, it's a conspiracy and it's rigged, or whatever you want to say. But one thing about the stock market is it's old and it's been around for a long time. There's a lot of money in it. And if you compare that to Pokemon, you can understand how much of an infant Pokemon is at this stage. And if you plan on being around for the long term, then you need to position yourself for the changes that are coming. And I think that's where my skill set and what I bring to the table is going to be very valuable, because I am thinking long term, as I mentioned, and I'm probably getting ahead of myself, but I am doing this for my kids, and I want them to see and learn from all of these videos the way that you guys are. And if I say it now, what I'll say is the future that I'm thinking about is a future where they come back, watch these videos, and they can actually learn about investing by looking and understanding Pokemon cards. So if that's not a giveaway, what's going on here is, my desire to teach my kids investing through a market like Pokemon that's easier to understand and easier to digest. Because what we have here is, everybody knows where the money's at. Everybody knows where the future profits are going to be made, and it's in WotC. And some people have enough of a future mindset to understand that there's going to be money and value in the series that are outside of WotC, like Ruby Sapphire, Fire Red Leaf Green, etc., the EX series. And that's just a given. If you give it enough time and you really believe Pokemon's going to be here for the long term, they're already here for 20 years. When baseball became a thing in the 50s, or baseball was really big in the 50s. It took until the 80s for that generation who grew up with baseball to come back. And and if you look at where it is today from the 80s, another 30 years later, and you can see the market and just how much money's in that market. Any amount of research into anything that we're talking about in this video it should convince you about the longevity of Pokemon. Now, here's a difference. Some people don't care about that. People are a lot interested in just flipping and making a quick buck. And that's where we're kind of weeding those things out, because that's not what we're here for. We're here for the long term. And, they're going to get a lot of that. So in order to reprogram and help you understand the mindset you're going to need to go into the rest of the series, we're going to have to clear out this idea that my collection or me collecting Pokemon is investing. And I don't agree. And I do agree that objectively, every purchase you've made for your collection is an investment, yes, but not in the context of what we're talking about in this video. So we're going to define a collection or a collector, which we all are in part, but when you are handling your collection or making purchases for your collection, we're going to consider that you being a customer in the Pokemon market. You're coming into the market, you're putting money into it, you're getting something like a card, and then that money is going into someone else's hands and essentially leaving the market. And then what that person decides to do with it is their business, but they're the ones that end up with the money. And this isn't all about the money, this is about the future. But you can build into this market now the way that you could have built into it in the past. And a lot of people like to complain that the market was cheaper then, and there's so much more, all the stuff that we've all heard, but you don't realize the opportunity that you're given now. And I think that's kind of a very important point. But collecting essentially is being a customer and putting money into the market, and that is not investing. Also, emotional purchases is not considered investing either, because with your emotional purchases, you're just, kind of spending money and just putting money out there. You have no direction. We're going to be talking about things like research and focus and building your position and growing your position. Well, these emotional purchases accomplish none of those things. And that's what all of these bad ideas about investing are going to have in common, is that they don't have a systematic approach to them. They're just kind of, very unfocused and unreliable. And yes, every card that you see in here was a purchase. It was emotional. It was spending, and it did pay off. But going forward, that is not the future. That's not how you maximize the opportunity that you have right now. It's going to take a lot of research to get there. It's going to take a lot of adapting and changing with the market, a lot of strategizing, a lot of time. But if you're willing to go on that journey, there is absolutely something here for you guys to unpack and understand as we move along in this series. So I think the big takeaways here are understanding the why, really getting into the long-term future of Pokemon, and kind of being intrigued by that prospect. So before I let you guys go, you should know that G2G Investments stands for Greed to Generosity. And if you feel like you're standing on the side of greed, then subscribe for more content, because it's coming. But if my approach or my story or my ideas about investing, they resonate with you, and you want to express your agreement with the content, then leave a like. That's feedback for me. These videos, the way that I can measure my success or my impact or my execution is through the likes. And also, and more importantly, if you're feeling on the side of generosity and you want to get involved, please get in the comments. You can go back to the first couple minutes of the video and get the recap of what the series is going to bring. Tell me what you're excited to hearing more about. I might give you some nuggets in the comments if you had an interesting question or wanted to bring something out. There's definitely a lot that we can talk about in the meantime. And until then, I am excited to bring you guys some of what's been going on. It's going to take us a while to get through all the content and get through all the information, but pretty soon you'll have an understanding of everything that was at play when we started the channel. So take care, be safe, and I'll see you next time.